Hello there, Azer here. This time I'm gonna talk about something very dear and near to my heart, which is mushroom game. Maple Story. Yes, I am. I live in the Southeast Asia region, or you call it sea, I guess. So it's inevitable that my childhood is gonna be my childhood MMO is just gonna be Maple Story growing up. So about this game though, the reason why I did not really talk about it that much, especially on my own channel, is that well, the copyright system back then is kind of very rough, especially when you want to talk about Maple Story related content, especially if you want to talk about non-official content of the game, if you get my gist, I guess. So I've been playing this game on and off on P servers, for the longest time, and usually I just keep it under wraps because I don't really want to get into trouble with the law or something. But technically, the source code was leaked, so everything has been always like that for the longest time. So you can just pretty much very easily find alternative servers out there, and there is always that top 100 list somewhere, but I'm not gonna tell you how to find those servers. But today, especially today, I'm just gonna decide to log back into my old MapleSEA account just to save the characters, because recently MapleSEA had decided to announce that any character that is under the level of 61 is going to be deleted or just get wiped, because they consider those players as they just started the game and they just quit immediately. So the people who did not really get above level 61 apparently is not gamer for them, so they decided to just wipe them all out to just clear out space for the later for their database or something. I don't know, but you gotta remember that the game has been running for more than 10 years at the point, I guess, and maybe 20 years now, because Maple Story is quite a huge franchise. It's since the back then, it is the one MMORPG that has pioneered the free-to-play model, but the problem with being the pioneer is that they are pretty predatory. Okay, so one of the main reasons why I quit MapleSEA in the first place is not because the game overwhelmed me in the systems or the new systems and the modern Maple Story is actually not appealing to me. It's just that the game is very badly monetized. So I mean, yeah, sure, the old school Maple that everybody remembers or always have that gachapon machine, which is probably the origin of all of the gacha games market on your mobile phones currently. That's the sole reason why gacha as a mechanic literally is so widespread. It's because the gachapon machine gives you rare items, and sometimes even items that you cannot really find outside. For the most part, people always gamble on these machines to try their luck to get the lottery, for example, on getting the rarest items possible just for profit, to sell it on the free market and stuff like that. And because there is this free market economy, it's not really a big deal back then as a pay to win mechanic, because only the whales and the people who is able to afford the NX cash, or in Southeast Asia they call it A cash back then, but only the richest people or the people who actually can buy these able to actually roll the gachapon. So in turn it just became a marketplace, and it becomes a supply and demand kind of a thing. And yeah, that's actually some good old days. back then when I still have friends to play with and stuff like that. It's such a nostalgic memory when trying to just level up, but it's just so tough back then that as a kid you just get overwhelmed by the hours needed to actually like grind until to get to level 30 alone. Back then I remember the suffering to actually get to reach like level 30 is so huge that when they actually released Monster Carnival, I was so happy because PQing is also one of the main ways for you to level up. And by PQing so much that I still remember how to actually perform my ice lightning teleportation magic and just literally avoiding rombots from hitting myself. That kind of experience is such a core memory, a locked moment for me back then. The game has gone into the route of like monetizing player progression and gear progression into like the cash shop or something. And that's like the worst case scenario for pay to win. That's like a big no-no for non-pay to win players. So as a person who has integrity, I had to stop playing, unfortunately. But I just wanted to log in and check out my old characters at least one more time before logging out again. So basically you can see here I basically have an Ivan character with a permanent NX Ivan costume. By the way, holy crap, do you know how expensive it is to buy a permanent NX item back then? Oh my goodness, I probably have begged so hard for my mother to just pay for me to get enough cash to even afford that crap. But yeah, I still remember I also have the 365 days version of the Kino pet, I guess, but that was probably on my first account, unfortunately, so I cannot really salvage that. But other than that, my other characters are just wearing normal clothes because I'm such a poor bloke back then. I just can't really afford any cash shop items, so yeah, that's the reason why most of my characters look so weird, I guess. But I really like the old school items, back in the day where they are so cool and janky and funny, when they don't really have a lot of like overwhelming potential stats, Star Force and whatever crap that is that comes with the new MapleStory. To be honest, it was a simpler time, and it's just a gone by era, so I don't really mind that, stopping playing MapleStory just because I don't really like the direction that the game is going, especially compared to most of the other regions. MapleSEA is kind of like the worst version of it. I just don't know how to explain it, but you probably can find a lot of videos and articles about MapleSEA being like the trash server that it currently is. And I just wish that the server can pick up its pace and just mirror what GMS is currently doing. And hopefully, maybe as well, maybe they can actually bring Maple Worlds to MapleSEA as well. Which, because currently, if you don't know, Maple Worlds basically is like a sandbox for a developer to develop a game or a server that is kind of semi-official, but it's player made, I guess, and you can just actually run a server with the MapleStory assets, I guess. There's like so many assets of like pixel arts that you can actually use that even when it actually first released in like South Korea, there is already a old school MapleStory experience that is very, very popular, that's been officially hosted on Maple Worlds at the moment. So I think it's a good thing, because who knows, maybe if this thing can take off in like, in South Korea, it might even take off in GMS, which is probably like tomorrow, I guess. So it's a good thing, and that's the part of the reason why I wanted to make this video, to revisit my old characters and remember how cringy I was of naming those characters. But as a cool kid myself back then, I'm really, really happy with the naming convention, because they actually kinda they actually became like fine wine the longer I see it, But it's probably time to just say goodbye to all these characters. Until MapleSEA actually fixes their game, I would probably not return. And just like a lot of MapleSEA players, they're probably going to just stick with GMS or just play Maple Worlds old school MS until MapleSEA gets its, heads and heels properly, I guess. So until then, this is the video that I wanted to make, just revisit my favorite MMORPG when I was a kid. And I think for most East Asian players as well, there's probably their core memory when they were kids, and that's the reason why a lot of those Asians, quote-unquote East Asians, are also playing MapleStory at the moment. So hey, don't be ashamed of playing MapleStory. A lot of people keep saying like it's kids game, is like pixel art, it's not for adults because the graphics are like kind of, childish, chibi-ish, or something like that. No, those detractors don't understand the magic it is to play a free-to-play MMORPG back when you are a kid and you are playing on a laptop or a crappy PC, and this is the only game that you can actually run and play online. And that's like such a magical moment for everybody. Don't let people steal that memory from you. And that's all for this video. And hopefully when Maple Worlds is coming out, I can actually make content for it when it actually is officially on the global side and everything was like in English. So I will cover more about like MapleStory content as well. And so far, that's it. I'll see you next time. Sayonara.